What up? You were looking at this face and listening to this voice. You were tuned in to the best kept secret in sports talk. I'm your friendly neighborhood smoking. You are officially on the hot seat. And what we do in the hot seat? We set somebody's ass on fire. And who we setting on fire this week? Of course, it's Florida State. It's got a football season. So y'all come on in, Copper Squad, and let's talk about it, man. Paying homage to the ghost over my left and my right shoulder. I know y'all came for the gospel. And I took a week off, but goddamn it, I'm back again. Ding, ding. Class is in session. What a good time to be a Florida State fan. This deep in the season, it's been almost a decade that as a Florida State fan, we can have these types of conversations. Being 10-0, right? Finishing regular season ACC play undefeated. I'm going to say that again. Being 10-0, finishing ACC regular season play undefeated. This has been one hell of a ride this season. It's not over by any means. And I look forward to seeing what this team is going to end up being. And one thing about that particular statement, I have no idea what that could be. And I think that's fine. I think it's fine based off the fact that understanding and remembering where Florida State was this time last year, or Florida State was this time 2 years ago. We're not too far removed from starting the season 0-4. So here we are, 10-0, undefeated in regular season play. It just feels good to say that. I'm going to keep saying it just feels good to say it. And we got Nowhere State coming up this weekend. But goddamn it, we just beat them goddamn Hurricanes. Woo! Rejoice, goddamn it, we just beat them Hurricanes. Florida State beats Miami at home 27-20, I believe it was. And it was a game that left me feeling a bit odd. The outcome didn't, right? You were excited that Florida State won. They did it on the national stage in front of a bevy of recruits. So, you can't argue with the outcome. And regardless of what you think about this team, they're still undefeated. It's still 10-0 at this juncture of the season. They're still undefeated, regardless of what you think about this team. What I think about this team, they set themselves up to control their own destiny, and that's all you can ask for at this time of the season. That's all you can ask for. Locked in with the ACC championship game, we don't know who Florida State is going to play, and at this point, I really don't give a shit. Talking about the game in particular, guys, I know how you feel about people who criticize Florida State. I am well aware how you guys treat people who criticize Florida State. That Bud Elliott is probably the poster child for that. And to be honest with you, I've been listening to Bud for years. Bud just tells his version of the truth, and some people hate him for it. And I remember when, during the Willie Taggart era, probably early on in the Mike Norvell era, even during the latter part of Jimbo's era, he was pretty negative. And I used to ask myself, why in the hell are people so goddamn upset at Bud? What the hell is there to be positive about? Like, during that juncture, probably 2016 up until, I'll say 2021, right? Maybe 2022, Bud didn't have a whole lot to say that was positive about the program. What the fuck was there positive to say about the program? What did you want to pull out his ass? We weren't having positive conversations about Florida State. You were talking to a friend, a colleague, a family member, whomever that was a fan or even followed Florida State. How did those conversations go? They weren't very pleasant. Wasn't a lot of smiles going on around the program at that time, right? And people beat Bud up for that. And I'd be like, shit, don't nobody want to hear the goddamn truth anymore? Well, listen, if you don't want the truth, get your ass out of here. Because that's exactly what I'm going to give you. Or at least my version of it. Florida State beat Miami. That's always good. Okay? Let's not get ahead of ourselves. That is always good. There was something off about that game. And the reason why I didn't come to you last week, it was probably the same reason I didn't come to you 3 weeks ago. I don't want to continue to repeat the same things. I don't want to come here and get in front of you and say some shit I said last week. Say the same thing I said a month ago. And I stop, right? I'm not going to make up stuff. I'm going to come to you and tell you, and we're going to discuss exactly what I think I saw. I keep seeing the same shit, and I'm seeing it far too often. So I think the biggest issue people have with Florida State fans specifically, they still know what they saw in September. People, we are getting into, if not already, the second week of November. People still remember what they saw the first week of September down there in Orlando against LSU. They're still waiting for Florida State to show them what they saw in Orlando, which was a juggernaut of a team, or the potential of being a juggernaut of a team. Florida State has played 10 games. We still have yet to see Florida State put together a complete game. People, that bothers me. And I don't know why, because you can't argue with the outcome. They're undefeated. Whatever they're doing, it's working. They're undefeated. But we know, when I say we, I mean people who think like myself, there's another level Florida State can get to. And the most frustrating part about them not getting there is we know that the only people that are stopping Florida State from getting there is Florida State. So let's go back a tad bit. I'm not going to keep you long, as I don't have that much to talk about. But I do want to discuss this. Let's go back after the LSU game. I came in here giddy. I was happy as happy could be. I, I remember leaving the game thinking to myself, wow, how do you stop this damn team? How you going to stop them? How you going to stop them? That is not rhetorical. That is a legit fucking question. How you going to stop that goddamn offense? Because I know what I saw, and be mindful, I am probably the only person you heard say that Florida State should go undefeated before the LSU game. I don't know if there was another publication, another outlet that predicted Florida State going 12-0 outside of myself. What I saw September the 3rd only solidified in my mind. I don't think there's a team on the schedule that can outscore Florida State. Meaning, I told y'all then, Adam Fuller shake my hand. Shake it, Adam. I may have been wrong. I was probably wrong. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But I didn't think Adam Fuller needed to be special. I didn't think his unit needed to be special, because at the end of the day, I was under the assumption all he has to do is not give up 30, because I don't think you can hold Florida State under 31 by anybody, right? So fast forward to now, I'm still waiting, just like a lot of other people are, on that complete game. Florida State does head-scratching shit. And don't get me wrong, you don't go 10-0 on accident. You have to have good players. I mean, you got to have a good bit of talent. You have to have good coaches, which Florida State does. And you have to have a level of continuity and a level of buy-in and trust in their program that exceeds whatever we thought our expectations are. Because I've said it over and over this season. Even though I said 12-0, I understood it is incredibly hard, especially in this day and age, to go undefeated in college football. Only a handful of teams are expected to do it. So, and this isn't me being a prisoner of the moment. I'm telling you that over the course of the season, I felt this way. This is the second time Florida State has had 1 yard and a quarter. I think it was Syracuse. And I remember telling you all then, I don't quite remember who it was, but I remember telling you all then, there were people out there who were doing shows and podcasts and giving out sound bites that were telling you it's okay. No, it's not. It is not okay for an offense that has that much talent to produce 1 yard a quarter. And here we are again against Miami at home. And it's like, I'm wondering in the second quarter, what the hell am I watching? Almost every week, you see remnants of how special this offense can be, right? And then for some reason or another, it just won't click. So Saturday, Florida State was up 10-0. They do the kickoff, get the ball back, and it's foot on throat time now. It's time to put your foot on their throat and impose your will. It's time to let Miami know you are not as close to us as you think we are. It's time to let those 100+ recruits know you were here for a reason. You were here to witness the dominance that is Florida State. And before I know it, it's halftime and the score is tied 10-10. And I'm sitting there and I am stunned, right? And again, we've seen this every week, right? Florida State be lethargic in the first half, do head scratching shit, have questionable play calling. There are drop passes, there are missed assignments. JT is overthrowing somebody, maybe underthrowing somebody, I don't know. But there's always something that's going on in the first half of a goddamn game that makes you go, what the hell is going on over there, right? And I'm watching the television and I'm looking at Miami go into the tunnel and they high-fiving people and they happy as hell. They think they got us, right? And me thinking to myself, I guess maybe Miami only has watched Florida State on the first half of games, because in the second half, they come out and they put foot to ass, right? I think in almost every game this season, Florida State has come out and shown us who we think they can be, who they should be, right? But in that moment, halftime, I'm thinking to myself, why? Why are we tied with Miami? Don't get me wrong. I think Miami has good enough talent. Coaching, it's another conversation. But I think Miami has good enough talent to be in the game with Florida State. And it's a rivalry game. And like my man Cobbs told me last season when I was talking about Florida, hey man, because I was telling him I wanted Florida State to win by 2 touchdowns. He was like, dude, it's a rivalry game. Those things don't typically happen because you throw, I guess, what you would call football common sense out of the window because it's a rivalry, right? And I tried to apply that way of thinking during this game. But as the game went on, the things that were happening weren't rivalry-esque, meaning if something inexplicably happened, I didn't think it was because this is a rivalry game. That's because that was a bad play call. If something happened that left me scratching my damn head, I didn't throw it under the rivalry umbrella. I threw it under, that was a poorly executed play. If something happened and it left me thinking, the fuck was that? It wasn't because, oh, it's a rivalry game. It's because you are looking very lethargic, and I don't think you're taking this game as seriously as you should. People, that has happened far too often this season with Florida State. Far too often. And I can't understand for the life of me why. But I will tell you this. I want somebody to do me a favor. I'm going to tell you where to cut this. I'm going to tell you where to start it and where to stop it. All right? Y'all ready? Cut it here. Take what's there. Don't do too much. Don't do too little. Simplify it and take what they are giving you. Cut it. Cut that excerpt of this show and send it to whomever made the decision for the Florida State football team. One thing I was excited about, and I'm going to explain this. One thing I was excited about at the start of the season was how many options Jordan Travis had. And I said Jordan Travis is going to be better than last season because he has more talent than he had last season, this season, right? He's going to look better. And one thing I was uber excited about was Winston Wright. Winston Wright had a burst back that I don't think was discussed enough. I remember watching the LSU game. I was there. And he wasn't getting, I think he got maybe 1 or 2 targets. But I'm looking at him. He was shaking them dudes out. They goddamn cleats, man. Listen, the dude looked really crisp. And he looked like the guy who we saw come from West Virginia, right? Or at least very close to it. And I'm thinking to myself, man. And the reason why I was so giddy about the offense is what I told y'all. No matter how you want the ass whooping, Florida State can facilitate to that ass whooping. We can give you big plays, do the run game, do the pass game. We can give you the short and intermediate. We can give you the dink and dunk, right? We can hit you on the seams. We can hit you on the outside. We can come with you from the flat. Our quarterback has legs like you've never seen. There's nothing this offense can't do. We have a running back room that is second to very few teams in the country. We have weapons everywhere. However Florida State wants to attack a football team, they can attack them. And there's literally nothing that goddamn football team should be able to do about it. Right? I was wrong. This is a boom or bust offense. And I don't mean that in the sense of every play is. No, I'm not saying it because let me preface my statement by saying this. I'm not speaking at 100%, right? I'm not saying that everything is boom or bust. I'm not saying that they do whatever I'm saying 100% of the time. No, what I'm saying is there are opportunities every game for Florida State to do something simple. And more time than I'm willing to be comfortable with, they don't do it. They kept running in the stack boxes. It was evident. It was evident that Miami did not want Florida State to run. They were literally daring you to throw to the outside. You didn't do it. And even if it wasn't that, because one thing I don't like is the camera angles. You don't really know what a defense is doing until you see the safeties. It gives you a better idea of what the quarterback is looking at. So even if they weren't allowing the big plays for Florida State, there's still a short and intermediate game that Florida State can attack you on because they have a three-headed monster at tight end. They have trees on the outside, right? Listen, if I'm a slot receiver and Florida State is recruiting me to play slot receiver, I'm not coming there. I'm not. You kiss my grits. I'm going somewhere else. I'm going somewhere where they actually utilize slot receivers. Again, that's not to say Florida State doesn't, but there are moments in when they should be featured and they are not. Does anybody understand what I'm saying? There is an element of this team that has gone largely untapped for a good bit of the season, and I can't understand why. When somebody's giving you something, God damn it, you take it. If they're giving you one-on-ones, take it. If they're giving you the underneath, take it. Because you don't have to score touchdowns on every play. What you want to do is have third and manageable because that gives you so much of the playbook to operate from. And I'm telling you something. With all of those weapons, 3rd and 4 is a nightmare for any defense. Any. Because you don't know what the hell they're going to do. 3rd and 4, I can send Jaheim Bell that way. I can send Johnny Wilson this way. Like I'm talking about a simple dig route, a comeback route, up and out. There are so many things you can do from a receiver standpoint to where the defense is going to be literally at your mercy. You're going to put them on their heels because you have so many options. You don't know if there's going to be a wheel route out of the backfield, right? No, if your team has a weakness, Florida State has a weapon to attack it. If a team has a weak linebacker play, you cook food against Florida State, or you should be, because these linebackers these tight ends are going to test you, right? We have a fleet of running backs that can show how poorly your linebackers are. We have a quarterback who have the legs that's going to put a lot of pressure on those linebackers. Let's just say you have question marks at cornerback, or your DB room is suspect. Ask LSU how that shit went. Go ahead, ask them. Because no matter how you want the ass whooping to be given, Florida State have the tools to give it. We can produce this ass whooping however you like it, and they don't, because there are some of the simple things they are missing. This was a game in which you would think Keon and Johnny would get more targets, and they didn't. And I couldn't understand why. I cannot understand why. And I've told you this before. There's enough blame to go around for this offense. I can point to a lot of people and say, hey, listen, something's wrong here. Hey, listen, you ain't doing your goddamn job. Whether you're talking about being too cute with the play calling, whether you're talking about the drop passes, whether you're talking about missed blocking assignments, whether you're talking about JT not being accurate with the football. And then on the flip side, you'll see one of the most amazing catches you'll ever see, or a catch that an ordinary wide receiver can't make. You'll see a lineman obliterate somebody, right? You'll see Jaheim Bell ushering his quarterback into the end zone. You'll see Jordan Travis throw an absolute fucking dime of a football. And you're wondering, why can't I see this more often? Where's the level of consistency? You'll see Mike Norvell draw up something that only this many coaches in college football can draw up. Because when he came out in the pistol, because the last few games, last probably 3 to 5 games, Florida State has used the pass to set up the run. Because I remember somebody saying last few games they thought Florida State was holding it back so they could just unleash holy hell on Miami, right? Just call very vanilla, very bland, have a very vanilla and very bland game plan going into these games. So when Miami went back to look for something, there wasn't really much there. Then boom, they hit them with a bevy of this, that, and the third. Okay, they came out in pistol. Okay, maybe they saw something, and they didn't really do anything special. Some of it worked, right? But I've seen Mike Norvell scheme up people to be open, and where is this more consistently? Because what I've been saying about Florida State hasn't changed. You don't want to have these types of mindsets going into the wrong game and end up paying for it later. You don't want to play the wrong team and give them whatever they want in the first half, or not play up to your standard. I think that's a better way to put it. You don't want to go into one of these games and not play up to your potential the first half, and then you can't make up for it in the second half. Every time it seemed as if Miami was just one play away from breaking this shit. Every time it seemed Miami was just one play away from making this really uncomfortable for Florida State. And it almost happened. It almost happened. And I'm not going to tie what I saw to it being a rivalry game. I'm going to tie it to the fact that there were times when this game was poorly called. There were times when this game was poorly executed. And let me say this. I'm waving my hand. Look at me. I'm right here. Listen to me. This is coming from the guy who doesn't have the expectation of perfection. I'm that guy. A lot of the things that I'm sitting here beating you across the head with, I expect some of it to happen. Not as much as it's been happening, though. My goodness. 1 yard for an entire quarter? You have a Heisman Trophy candidate at quarterback, and you mean to tell me you got 1 yard in a quarter? You got, in my opinion, the best tight end in college football. You have a first-round wide receiver. You have a 6'7" wide receiver. You have a 6'1" running back who is very hard to tackle, who ran pretty hard, by the way. 1 yard? People, there's a reason during the season preview that I didn't discuss playoff. And I'm not going to discuss it now. But the reason why is because I needed to see what I thought, and I need to see how often I will be able to see it, in the sense of, if I think this team is going to be this good, I need to see how often it's going to be this good. I've only seen glimpses. And the problem with only seeing glimpses is that just means you're not being consistent. There are things that it's not just me. There are things that are going on in that field that everybody sees, everybody has questions about. Like, stop subbing so goddamn much. I have it on both sides of the damn ball. Haven't figured that part out yet. They're probably not doing as much as they did in the beginning of the season, but they're still doing it a little bit too much for my liking. Florida State is playing 3 free safeties. Why? Why? Why the fuck are you playing 3 free safeties? Maybe somebody's injured that I don't know about. But if they're injured, why the hell are they playing? To begin with, I'm talking about a 10-0 football team, right? It's not even me nitpicking. I don't think it is. It's just my observations. Like, I remember thinking to myself, Florida State needs to get out to a big lead. So when I mentioned they were up 10-0, it's 17-0. Come on, we need a touchdown. Because now I really want to see Emory Williams throw the football, right? Complimentary football, right? You need to have, damn the script. When it was 10-0 and Florida State got the ball back, he needed to call his best game right then. Mike Norvell I'm speaking of. He needed to call his best game for that drive because he needed 7 points. Because what I think Adam Fuller would have been able to do would have been vastly different when it's, whether it be 10-3, 10-7, then it would have been 17-0. He's going to have to throw. And if he's going to have to throw, he's going to get in some type of trouble. He's going to be some type of resistance from that football team, from that defense. And I tell you this, when I said Adam Fuller shake my hand, one thing I did get wrong about you is throughout this season, he has been a wizard at making adjustments. And I say a wizard because there's one thing about making adjustments, right? I think a lot of coaches do that. His adjustments work. and he knows exactly what to do, and he knows exactly what personnel grouping to do it with. So for that reason, I was wrong about him. He has done a magnificent job in that area. And whatever his game plan, now his game plans to start games, a few times I've scratched my head about it. I didn't understand it. But the fact that you didn't end it the way you started speaks volume to me. Because there are a lot of stubborn coaches in football, in sports, period. He's not falling victim to being one of them. You know what? This shit ain't working. It's time to change it. And, if I can criticize you in public, I can praise you in public. So for that, hats off. But Florida State shouldn't have had to try that goddamn hard to beat Miami. They shouldn't have. But a true freshman quarterback should not have made that game that interesting. Shouldn't have. I don't expect perfection. I don't. But what I do expect is for a team at this juncture of the season to have put together at least one complete game so we know exactly how to judge and grade Florida State. Do me a favor. You're not a Florida State fan, right? You're not. You know what? Stay one. Just pretend the team you saw Saturday against Miami was another team. How would you feel about that game? If you weren't a Florida State fan, or if you were looking at a team that wasn't Florida State, what would you think about that football team at the end of that game? And I come to you all as objectively as I can. I don't have fanboy written on me when y'all listen to me. I come to you with an unbiased set of lenses. If there was ever a time to send a statement, it was Saturday. There were entirely too many recruits sitting in that game for you to give them anything to think about outside of, God damn, Florida State beat the shit out of Miami. That should have been the link, because, you know what? Glad I said this. You remember 4th and 14, the last time Miami was in Tallahassee, right? Travis to Parchment, glorious time, wonderful time to be a Florida State fan that night, right? Nobody said this until I started. That's how I know y'all be sharing the show, and I appreciate y'all for this. Nobody started saying this till I brought it up. The number of recruits that were at that game. I probably listed like 7 blue chip recruits, right? Maybe more. None of them end up signing with Florida State. I got the list right here. Had 7 official visitors, 22 in all. 7 official visitors. Then all you probably had 22 visitors, a lot of unofficial visitors from the 2022 class, right? Of those 7 official visitors, 0 signed with Florida State. Everybody who committed to Florida State that was at that game was already committed to the school. You did nothing. That game did nothing. Absolutely nothing to put things in your favor for any recruit after because it's doke at night. It's a rivalry game and blah, 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 blah. None of that shit worked to our favor. Now, Florida State did go 0-4 that season, finished the season 5-7. There were a lot of things working against Florida State at that time. But my point was they put all their eggs in that Miami basket. Well, a lot of their eggs. A lot. And all of the kids who were at that game, I'm talking about official visits. Travis Hunter was at that game. What's the kid that ended up going to Georgia, the defensive end? Shade Tree son. He was at that. Marvin Jones. He was at that game. It was a lot of kids. None of them signed with Florida State. And that crowd was rocking. The atmosphere was electric, much like it was yesterday. You had an opportunity. Because Miami, depending on what their sales pitch is, they have something to sell. We're not as far off as people thought. That game looked like Miami isn't far off from Florida State as we thought. I think internally they are, as far as the infrastructure of the team. I think that team is built horribly, and I think it starts at the top. I remember saying this about Cristobal when he got here. He didn't scare me as a coach as it relates to the X's and O's and what he does on the field. He doesn't scare me at all in that regard. And I caught flack for saying this, but I said he scared me in the sense of he is an ace recruiter. He is the ace of ace recruiters. He recruits the socks off your ass. And at the time he got here, Florida State was still in rebuild mode. Florida State needed talent, and they needed an influx of it. And I said the issue with that is He's going to end up going head to head with Mike Norvell for kids, and he's going to win. And at that time, Florida State couldn't stand that. They couldn't stand to lose kids at key positions to Cristobal. Cristobal does some of the dumbest shit on the football field you can think of. But yet he still gets kids, and I can't understand why. I wouldn't want to go play for him. I don't think he's a good coach. I don't think he's very smart, right? But looking at that game, he can probably sell that Miami isn't that far away from Florida State. Even though I think the gap is wider than what that game showed, you're talking about kids who are very impressionable, right? So being that he is a very good salesman, he's really good in the game of recruiting, you don't want that game to be used against you, even though you won. Because again, in 2021 you won. And it did not pay off for you at all. Now, this is a different team, right? You're undefeated. You're in the hunt for the college playoff. You're probably going to play for a national championship at some point. So it's different, right? He's recruiting against a different beast. But he is very good at what he does. That game was too important for you to go out there and win just 27-20. If you're a fan and you like to troll, that game served its purpose, right? This is a business. You were in the business of trying to lure kids to your program. The sexiest thing you could have done was blow the doors off Miami, and you didn't. And it's not to any other fault but your own. Because the game was close because Florida State allowed it to be close. Florida State stopped allowing teams to play in the same room with you when they shouldn't be in the same conversation. The questions may be hard. I heard somebody say this past weekend, and I liked it. The questions may be hard, but the answers are simple. This is a very simple answer to whatever the question may be. This team is too good to look the way they look. Well, I said that wrong. This team is too talented to look the way they look. These games are too close in junctures and moments, and they shouldn't be. And I guess now we've entered the style point conversation of it all. And to me, it's not style points. It's what the eye test shows me. The eye test shows me Florida State leaves a lot of meat on the bone. I do not want Florida State to run into the wrong goddamn team and leave meat on the bone. Because somebody's going to take their fucking supper, and there's going to be nobody you can blame for it but yourself. That's all the time I'm giving you. That's all the time I got. Appreciate y'all for coming here to listen to me, man. Appreciate the conversation we have in the comments. I haven't been as busy in there as I'd like to because I've been busy, but please don't hesitate to send me something, man. You can reach me on the High Seat 19 on Twitter. You can reach me at the High Seat 19 on Instagram. As always, if there's anything you wanted to add, what y'all think about recruiting, what y'all thought about the game in general, right? Hit me in the comments. I'll get back what you let me know. Not sure I'm going to come back to y'all next week because who the hell wants to talk about Nowhere State University, right? But who knows, I may come back anyway. We need to have a conversation after the Florida game for certain. I like this team. As much as I come on here and talk this shit, I like this team a lot because I still know what it can be. I'm still one of those people who's holding on for what this team can be. So don't take my criticism as I'm throwing jabs at the team. Just take it as I'm looking at this through an honest set of lenses. And if I'm wrong, tell me where I'm wrong at. I'd like to have the conversation with you. But again, I appreciate y'all, man. You are officially off the high seat. Y'all be good.